Bold predictions roll on. It is chapter 12 of bold predictions tonight. What do you believe? What would you bet on? Candidly, I think we have a bold prediction in the show that one of you does not believe, and I'm going to call you on it a little bit later. First up, bold prediction from Adam. USC and Texas make the playoff. This would turn the sport inside out. These are two of the biggest premier brands when they're on top in college football. Miami's another one, but all three of them have been varying levels of down lately, and so they haven't mattered as much. But believe me, I have lived through eras where one or both of these teams are at the top of their game. Most of us have lived through an era where they faced off in a national title game, and it's wild. For those of you who haven't been there, like it's a theme park that's 100 miles down the road, and I've been there, let me tell you, it's wild. You got to go there one day. This is an 8.75 for me on the boldness scale. So to give you an idea of where they stack up in the preseason, USC has the 6th best odds to win the title. Texas has the 8th best odds to win the title. Not crazy. And we're just saying that they're going to make the playoff, not win the title. These would both be first-timers, though. They'd both be rookies making the playoff. It doesn't happen a whole lot, but USC and Texas, I still can't believe that's a true sentence. Neither one of them's made the playoff. Here's what would be fun for me personally. If either of them make the playoff, but especially if both of them make the playoff, it'd be a bad day to be one of those what we call cannot casuals. And that is the kind of person who thinks that just because something has never happened, that means it cannot happen. USC can't make the playoff. Texas can't make the playoff. Well, yes, they can. They haven't. Have not. Does not equal cannot. Our rule of the summer around here. This is an 8.75. It's just hard to make the playoff, first off. And then when you're throwing the old parlay at me, which are the devil's tool to bankrupt you, when you're throwing the parlay at me, USC and Texas, it's pretty bold, friends. Not over the cliff, but on the edge of the cliff. 8.75 on the boldness scale. Next up, speaking of that old playoff that we love so much on this show, why don't we just talk to Gilbert in South Carolina? He says no team that made the playoff last year will make it this year. So we're going to have 4 fresh teams in there. This is a 9.25. You know what? It's bolder than that. 9.5 on the boldness scale for me here. Last year we had Georgia, we had Michigan, we had TCU, we had Ohio State. So before we even go any deeper here, I need you to tell me how neither Michigan nor Ohio State are making the playoff. Certainly in most of the scenarios, if one doesn't make it, the other does. Now, producer Jesse might as well come in my ear right now and say, yeah, what about Penn State? Valid. What about Penn State? But even if Penn State were to beat both of them, go undefeated, and win the Big Ten title and make the playoff, I'm still asking. Ohio State with 1 loss, Michigan with 1 loss. Well, one of them would have another loss because they played each other. But you're telling me that neither one of them ended up being good enough to have an at-large spot? And then if you find a way to thread that needle, you still got to keep Georgia out. Georgia's going to have a tough time getting beat in the regular season. It's not impossible. But Josh Heupel going to pull it off later in the year. Hugh Freeze, their first road game. Maybe Shane Beamer comes in there week 3 and catches lightning in the bottle. Or maybe just Alabama beats him in the SEC title game or something like that. But even then, with 1 loss, is Georgia staying out of the playoff? I could see TCU not making it. I already talked about the other 3. This is going to be tough. So Josh Heupel's got to be your best friend here. James Franklin's got to be your best friend if you want this to happen. I just don't think you're keeping all 4 of those out. I don't think you're keeping Michigan and Ohio State out. Georgia, I think, would find a way in, or one of the others would find their way in. This is a 9.5 for me. We're going 9 or above with the next 2 as well. It's a very bold night here. What about from Ocala, Florida? Florida just wins 9 games. This is a 9. Speaking of the number 9, this is a 9 on the boldness scale. Do you I know that these preseason odds don't determine anything. And I'm not trying to tell you they do. All I'm trying to tell you is it is depressing. It is grade A level depression to see Florida with a preseason over-under win total of 5.5. That is abysmal. So if they win 9, wonderful. Just throw up the middle finger to Vegas. But in the meantime, I'm telling you, this is pretty bold. To win 9 games, I'm going to make it a 9. They play 5 of the top 18 odds teams in the country. So you take that list to win the national title, the top 20 favorites. Florida plays 5 of the top 18. We have no clue what they're going to look like at quarterback. They are 118th in returning production. Returning production is a number I use a lot. It's only because I know the preview magazines are going to talk about returning starters. And I don't value any of these stats wholesale, but I value percentage of returning production a lot more than I do just returning starters, because that means nothing to me. Quarterback, we already talked about. Defense has got to get a lot better. They've got depth issues several places, but they should be able to run the ball. And if they can run the ball well, and they can play good defense and control the turnover margin, there is a world where Florida wins a lot of close games. Are they going to win 9 games? I don't know. That's pretty bold. I'm pulling for you guys. I don't know what else to say. I'm allowed to play favorites here. I'm pulling for you guys. Swamp 24/7. I hope you heard me over there. Lastly, this one's the one I don't buy. All right, so I don't like doing this to you, but fifth quarter BYU, that's the name of the Twitter account. He does not believe what he just said here. The prediction is Penn State loses 5 regular season games. You don't believe that. And the way I know you don't is because I'm going to give you a chance to back it up. The entire premise of this segment is, what do you believe that's bold but you would bet your own money on? You're telling me Penn State's going to lose 5 regular season games. I'm going any amount of money you want to on it. You know how to get in touch with me because you already got in touch with me. They are not losing 5 games. Their over-under win total is 9.5, but I don't really care what Vegas says about that. I care what their schedule says. I care that they should have one of, if not maybe the best defenses in the Big Ten and one of the best in the country. I was up there a month and a half ago and looked at that tailback room. It's going to be very hard to slow them down. They should have really good quarterback play. There is no glaring weakness on the team. So unless you have a model out there that can predict quarterback injury, which none of us can, you're not telling me that you have confidence in them losing 5 regular season games. But if you do, if you have that confidence, come make some money off of me, because I'd be happy to be proven wrong there. Well, happy for you, not happy for Penn State.